So this is the Samyang 24mm f1.8 AF Sony lens. A lot of you have been sliding into my DMs for months asking for my opinion on this lens. It's way cheaper than the Sony G-Master f1.4. So I'm going to be testing it out, and I'm sure a lot of you are looking forward to my findings on this lens. I've also got the Voigtlander 50mm f2, very small, lightweight 50mm lens. I've also got the Ioptron Skyguider Pro. This is the one star tracker that I have no experience with, so I wanted to pick it up so I can share my thoughts and opinions with you guys, and hopefully in the near future make an online course for star trackers, and this way I'll be able to explain all of the different star trackers on the market. And then finally, I have these Nightcore Sony batteries, which have a USB-C port directly on them for charging, and Nightcore have kindly sponsored this video, so huge thanks to Nightcore, and we'll be looking into these little batteries later on. So lots of new gear to test. I'm super excited. We're currently in California, the very north tip of California. Behind me is Mount Shasta, a huge, potentially active volcano, and I'm hoping that these clouds clear, because if they don't clear, I'm not going to be getting any nice shots. But starting to see Antares and Scorpius, so hopefully by the time it gets dark in an hour, those clouds are going to be out of the way and we can test all this gear and get some awesome shots. So stick around for my findings on all of this stuff. So thankfully the clouds have cleared up, and just in time for astronomical twilight finishing. So whilst the Milky Way is low on the horizon, I'm going to use the 50mm, get a nice tight crop on the volcano, and Milky Way is now pretty much just aligned as I want it. This weird purple light is a consequence of my camera being full spectrum, and there's an infrared light inside the camera that's bleeding out. I can't see that light, but comes out in the video quite well. But I've set up the Ioptron Skyguider Pro, and this is a direct competitor to the Skywatcher Star Adventurer, which I've been using for years and years. They're pretty much the same spec, the same capacity in terms of payload. As far as I'm aware, they're pretty much on par with each other in terms of the tracking capability. The biggest difference is usually like where you're based. Like in the UK, it's far easier to get Skywatcher equipment, but if you're in the US, it's probably easier to get the Ioptron. The Ioptron is a bit more expensive, the full package versus the full package of the other Skywatcher with the counterweight and the wedge. But the Skywatcher definitely has a better wedge and a better counterweight than the Ioptron. So if you're doing deep sky astrophotography, the Skywatcher is a clear winner in terms of price and the deep sky setup with the counterweight and the wedge. But if you're just doing wide angle stuff, I'm just using the body of the tracker, not the wedge or anything. It's actually a little bit more compact and a bit lighter than the Skywatcher, which is nice. The other thing I've been really enjoying is that the illuminator for the poloscope is built into the device. This is something Skywatcher really need to do if they ever make a new version of the Star Adventurer. But I've been really enjoying that. I've also really been enjoying the off and on switch, because the Skywatcher has a dial which can sometimes turn on in your bag accidentally and waste your battery, and I hate that. And the other big difference is that this has a built-in battery instead of AA's, so you can't swap the battery out in the field if you run out of battery. So that's a negative, but the battery life is like, I think it's like 30 hours or something, so I don't think I'm ever going to run out of battery, because I'll recharge my stuff every time I go back to a hotel or my house or something. So I'm really enjoying this tracker. It's yeah, it's pretty good. And I've also got a prototype of the version 2 of the Z bracket right now, so I'm testing that out. We need to make a few changes before it's ready for mass release, So it's probably a couple of months, a few months away just yet, but we've beefed up the Z bracket, stronger hinges, it's a lot more sturdy. We've got some new levers, which are amazing, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this out there. So with the Milky Way in the perfect position and the sky is cloud free, I grabbed some images with the Voigtlander 50mm lens. This is what I captured. So the sky was a 2-shot panorama and the foreground was a 2-shot focus stack. And first impressions of this lens are pretty positive. Colours look amazing and the stars in the corners, even at f2, are pretty round. But I'm going to save my final review for another video. Alright, so I just need to change my batteries quickly because, well, this battery is running out. And what's super cool about these Nightcore batteries is you push a little button here, see the red light? So that tells me that there's less than 10% battery left on this one. But this one here, nice and green, so I know it's pretty much fully charged. If it's green, it's between 50 and 100%. If it's red, it's below 10%. And then there's a blue for between 10 and 50%. So super cool that you can check the status of your batteries without having to put them in your camera, turn your camera on, etc. And what's super cool about these is that they have a USB-C port directly on the battery. So you can plug them straight into a smartphone charger. You don't need to carry an extra battery charger. So they're great for travel. You don't need that extra charger. And they have pretty much all the same specs as the Sony batteries. They're like 2,200 milliamp hours, same voltage, same wattage. They've worked in both my A7 IV and my A7 S3. And what's super cool about the USB-C is that I can now charge this in my bag using a portable power bank like this one here, the Anker one, so I can charge this dead battery and just keep swapping them out and recharging on the go in the field. So it's pretty cool. They're a little bit cheaper than the Sony batteries, but they have all these extra features. So I'll put a link in the video description down below so you can check out more details. And a huge thank you to Nightcore for sponsoring this video. Alright, so now it's time for the Samyang 24mm f1.8 AF Sony E-mount lens. At the wide open apertures at f1.8 and f2, there's a bit of chroma going on in the corners and there's chromatic aberration throughout the entire frame. So all of the stars have, well, all of the bright stars have a coloured fringe on them. You can deal with that in Lightroom very easily. You just go into the lens profile correction tab, go to the manual tab, and then you can either adjust the sliders manually based on the colors that you can see, or you take the eyedropper tool and just select the color on the edge of the star and Lightroom will fix that up for you. So it's not the end of the world. But this lens is a lot lighter than the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master, and it's way cheaper. I think it's like less than half the price. So a lot of people are very interested in this lens, especially since Samyang have been advertising it as an astrophotography lens. There's a button on the side which if you press and hold when you're turning your camera on, it will automatically set the lens to infinity. And out of the box, it was pretty damn accurate. If you want, you can recalibrate the infinity point as well. So if it's not good out of the box, you can recalibrate it. And then there's a little green light on the side of the lens that lets you know you're focused at infinity. And if you adjust the focus manually, the light will turn red so that you can see visually that you're no longer at infinity focus. So a very exciting lens, smaller, lighter and cheaper than the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master, and advertised for astrophotography. So I'm going to get working on this panorama before the Milky Way moves out of alignment. I don't have much time left. And I think I'm going to try and do a H-alpha image, a HA RGB image. So I'm going to put my hydrogen alpha filter in on the sensor and add some hydrogen alpha data to the Milky Way. I have a video about this filter as well, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a link to that video down in the video description below. But I need to start working on this panorama because the Milky Way is not going to wait for me. this was an image captured with my Astro modified A7 IV. I then took another image, but this time using a hydrogen alpha filter. And I was using the Astronomic 12 nanometer H alpha filter, which you clip on in front of the sensor. And I made a video about this filter about a year ago, so I'll put a link to that in the video description down below. And then I combined those two using a slightly new technique to get this image. And it's not really a new technique, I've just tweaked a few steps in my normal technique. And I'm thinking of sharing this technique in the near future on Patreon. But then once I blended the foreground on, this was the final result. The addition of that H alpha data, you just get so much more contrast in the Milky Way than in the hydrogen alpha clouds, those extra pink red splashes you see in the sky. And overall, I've been very impressed with this little Samyang lens. I've been shooting with it mainly at f2.2, 2.5 and 2.8, and then the stars in the corner are nice and round, but it's just insanely small and lightweight, and a very good, much cheaper alternative to the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master. Anyways guys, thanks for tuning in to another vlog. If you're going out to enjoy the night sky anytime soon, I wish you good luck in clear skies. Oh, don't forget to get your pre-orders in for my book if you want a signed copy. And the limited edition hardbacks are going to run out soon, so make sure you get your orders in.